Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you're safe and well. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Pittcon's current president, Dr. Neal Dando. And today we're going to be looking back at some of the learnings from 2020, looking ahead to what the trends are for 2021, and also getting a preview of what's happening with Pittcon Virtual this year, which is running on March the 8th to the 12th. So Neal, first of all, lovely to see you. How are you?
Great, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I really appreciate it.
No, it's lovely. Well, I'm guessing you're actually in Pittsburgh right now then, because I'm so used to Pittcon, never actually been in Pittsburgh and been in Chicago or some other city, that I always am shocked actually speaking to someone in Pittsburgh about Pittcon.
Yeah, we outgrew Pittcon quite a while ago, so it's been many decades since we've actually been able to be in Pittsburgh, and the big limiter there is just available hotel rooms. They just aren't here for us.
Right. So before we start, though, I thought it'd be really useful for people who are not familiar with Pittcon if you could just give a quick overview of both the organisation and the event, and also your background as well. And what does the actual president do as president of Pittcon?
Well, if people think a bit about U.S. history, Pittsburgh was a real hub. Okay, with the three rivers joining here. Pittcon is where aluminum industry started, hub for steel industry, glass industry, power generation, coal and electricity. I mean, Westinghouse was it, right? And all those were in Pittsburgh. So all these major industries were here. And there really wasn't a mechanism for the lab managers at these companies to interact with each other. And so in the 40s, two societies started up here, the Spectroscopy Society of Pittsburgh and the Society of Analytical Chemists of Pittsburgh. And that's what the purpose of them was for the chemists from these different companies to be able to get together. In 1950, the two societies said, why don't we start a conference so we could engage more with exhibitors, so we could see what's out there for us to be, which we would bring in house to our companies. And in 1950 is when they started Pittcon. It's been going on annually ever since. Originally was in Pittsburgh, was in the Westin William Penn Hotel in Pittsburgh. And as we grew, we went to bigger venues and got to a point where we could no longer be in Pittsburgh anymore. So we're all over the US. Myself, I'm a PhD chemist. I've had quite a history with Pittcon. The first presentation I ever gave in graduate school was at Pittcon in the very early 80s in Atlantic City when we were there. The Employment Bureau at Pittcon was how I came to Pittsburgh. I'm not a Pittsburgh native, but coming here was due to a registering with the Employment Bureau at Pittcon. The same is true for my wife. My wife is also a PhD chemist. She lived in Florida, and the same thing happened to her. She came to Pittsburgh because of a job she got through Pittcon's Employment Bureau. So it's been quite a long history. In the case of the president, what we really do is we're responsible for really the overall plan. Like how are we going to execute the conference and pull off all the different functions that we do.
Right, brilliant. And also, I know that a lot of the revenue that you generate for Pittcon actually goes back to industry or in helping people train and develop.
Well, that right there in a nutshell is kind of the biggest unknown about Pittcon, is that we really struggle to try and help people realize what we're about. I mean, we are a volunteer organization. I'm a volunteer. I don't get a penny for doing this. I do it because it's my way of paying it forward. I've had an amazing number of opportunities presented to me to over the course of my life, and it's my opportunity to pay it back. So to your point, we take all the net income from Pittcon and give it right back out the following year in the form of grants and scholarships and outreach. For example, when I'm not doing Pittcon, and if we weren't in COVID right now, I'd be driving an inflatable planetarium around the schools and doing shows for kids. So we really knock ourselves out to focus on kids before they've decided what they want to do with their lives. If there's something we can do to interact with these kids to get them to see to look at science and technology as an opportunity for their future.
Fantastic. That's brilliant. So let's look back at last year. And my first question to you, and I've asked this to a lot of senior life science leaders, is how would you describe 2020 in one word and why?
Well, if I had to describe it in one word, I'd say uh, efficient.
Right, that's interesting.
Particularly if I was talking about Pittcon, because um, what COVID really drove all of us to do was to become more efficient in what we're doing. In other words, to embrace technology better and think about it instead of having to. For us, when we do Pittcon, we have a lot of meetings. Well, instead of having to drive somewhere for half an hour to get there and then get set up and have your meeting and drive back, we do all of that online. Pittcon 2020 itself was a model of efficiency in a couple of ways. The biggest drawback for us, and in fact, is that COVID really hurt us on international participation.
I was there actually, and I know very much. It was literally the week
Yeah,
before
it was
everything shut down, basically. I
right.
remember I was in Chicago
That's right.
for it.
So we were the last big show of 2020. What was interesting is the people who came to Pittcon really wanted to be there. So a common theme
Sure.
from our exhibitors was, we had less traffic than normal, but it was all quality traffic. And they all
Sure.
said, we take that in a heartbeat. The people we're talking to are here because they want to be here and were very engaging. They were here. They were here for a reason. And it was great for us because the whole nature of the conversations were very directed towards mutual goals across the board in the tech program side and even on the expo floor with the exhibitors.
Yeah, well, I can reinforce that actually because, as I said, I was there for the 3 days, and I have to say, all credit to you and the whole team in terms of organising the event. But it's very, very difficult circumstances. I know when everyone's thinking whether you should have it, should not have it, and the numbers are going to be down. But you're right. Everyone I spoke to on the stands said that the people who were there because they wanted to be there for a real reason, and therefore you had far more meaningful conversations than perhaps you would have otherwise had because you had other people maybe collecting things off the stands and just wandering around rather than actually having a proper meaningful conversation. So I would second that completely. So obviously the pandemic has impacted you in terms of what you do. So how, if you look back on the year, how have you as an organization had to change, and how has the pandemic affected you? I mean, you talked about digitalization, for example. So how has it impacted you in terms of how you work and how the organization has been structured and actually work going forward as well?
That's a really interesting question because it's a mixed bag, right? So we had to pivot from our standard model. Our standard model was a face-to-face show, and we did that. We were fortunate to be the last show in the very beginnings of COVID. So we had a bit more time to prepare than other conferences did, and we've taken advantage of that. As I mentioned earlier, all of our meetings have all been virtual, every single one of them. One of the interesting things is it's forced our organization to embrace technology better,
Sure.
to be more efficient with our own meetings. One of the things that we've done is we've essentially gone from zero to learning how to do a virtual show. So
I think that's true for everybody.
I'm
Yeah.
sure that's learning that will not go to waste going forward. But the biggest thing of the COVID is it really forces you to figure out, to relook at your business model and how you can communicate your message to a broader audience. The biggest plus of all this is by going virtual, we now have the opportunity for others to participate who just simply couldn't. If it was a face-to-face only,
Sure.
the cost or logistics of getting there are just insurmountable. Well, now people, all they have to do is make that decision and they can join right from their computer wherever they are.
Brilliant. And from your personal point of view, and from what do you think are the main positives that have come out of 2021, both from your point of view, the event, and also the industry?
Well, the biggest positives, again, pushing people to embrace technology. I mean, right now people don't think twice about having a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting or equivalent using other platforms. It's caused us to become more efficient. We certainly look at our our own costs much more critically than we have in the past. Another another big positive that I'm curious to see how it plays out for us in 2021 is how our attendance base is when we look at international versus national. I'm hoping that being virtual in 2021 means we will have a greater proportion of international visitors. That's something that's always worried me, because the 72 years, this will be our 72nd year. And again, the fortunate thing for me in the early 80s is I happened to go to graduate school at the University of Delaware, and Pittcon was Atlantic City. I could drive there. If I lived further away in the United States or in another country, there's no way I could participate as a graduate student.
Sure.
That's not an issue. So the beauty of this year actually was, if you were a grad student or a professor, submitting a paper was super easy. You can do that right from your computer, and to attend, again, right from your computer. So all of those costs, all of those time efficiencies gone. So I'm hoping that well, even from our own looking at our participation, especially on the poster side, we clearly did get a larger group of international submissions on that side. I'm hoping the same thing holds true from our attendance side.
Right. And what do you think, looking back again, in terms of how it's impacted, obviously, the industry, and you know, you cover a wide range of industries within the analytical sector. I mean, you basically cover all of them, you know, because they all use analytical science, you know, within them. How have you seen any trends, or what are your thoughts in terms of how they've reacted to the situation? Because obviously they're both your visitors and your exhibitors. So how do you think they've reacted to the pandemic?
Well, exhibitors, the whole COVID issue has really put a whole set of new headwinds out there across the board, from the convention industry through all of our exhibitors. Because of course, right, everyone pretty much tightened the reins on all, even though they weren't attending any conferences in the latter, or weren't exhibiting in the latter half of last year. All businesses had to pull back the reins on their marketing and their attendance at shows. What's really interesting is COVID's actually caused an explosion in some areas. The technologies that support drug development, vaccine development, a tremendous growth there. Things like cryo-EM. I mean, most people know what that word means now. You know, obviously that's the electron microscopy technology used to visualize the physical shape and size of the spike proteins on the coronavirus. That's just one application. That technology is becoming cheaper. So the things you're seeing now is companies have been pushed to also become more effective. So you're seeing technologies becoming more specialized for directed applications, particularly in the pharmaceutical and drug vaccine area, and also being reduced in cost. Some of these instrumentation capabilities are rather expensive. Companies are really pushing to drive down the costs so that they're more available across the board, because again, more companies have seen opportunities in this space, and they're reaching out for equipment that they can afford to be able to get in here and start working aggressively.
Sure. I mean, I know also, you know, when I've gone to Pittcon and also other events like LCMS, every year you can see some trends happening amongst the exhibitors in terms of technology. So one year it may be Bio-Pharma is really big and everybody is talking about Bio-Pharma, and then the next year it may be about they've got the latest triple quad out, and all of a sudden everybody's got the new versions of triple quads and they're doing it. So what do you think? I mean, and you might not be able to tell me yet because it's a bit early days and you're still organising the show, but do you think there's any trends we should be looking out for this year that you might see at Pittcon, you know, based on what's happened in the last 12 months?
Well, in the U.S. in particular, an industry that's just been a real boon for chemists and instrument manufacturers has been cannabis.
Right.
So the U.S. is wrestling with, you know, legalization issues and how to roll this out, just like other countries are. And the analysis industry is really struggling to support that as best they can. Well, so what's the biggest challenge in that particular field? Right now, the biggest challenge is knowing the product you're buying is what it says it is. Well, to do that, you've got to have standards. You've got to have standardized methods. And so the industry is just working like crazy to develop all those. And and develop the techniques, because the people are in this industry, typically aren't chemists. You've got people start a lot of companies starting up, and they need to get running right away. And so that's just an explosive growth area for chromatography, for Mass-Spec, for the supplies, for doing for extracting samples. That whole industry is just going gangbusters. But again, the other one, like as you mentioned with Bio-Pharma, just huge. The vaccine development. One of the biggest pluses of COVID has been to embrace mRNA technology. So that's just a whole other game changer for us in vaccine technology. So there again, there's a whole range of support. Think about all the testing that's going on, the RNA amplification tests, the different kinds of tests, tests at home, the rapid tests. All of that's lab equipment and supplies. And so it's been a true game changer for that industry, figuring out how to deal with the current need, which is obviously the SARS-CoV-19, but also going forward, this is a change that's not going to go away. It's a totally new quantum leap in what we've done for years with flu vaccines. So we'll be seeing this for quite a long time, this growth area for quite a number of years going forward.
Well, that leads quite nicely to my next question, which we're looking ahead to 2021. Is that what do you think the new normal is going to be for the rest of this year and going into 2022? I mean, obviously the vaccine's out there, it's rolling out in some countries a lot faster than others. Obviously, you've still got resistance to wearing masks in certain places and so on. But what do you think in terms of the industry? And I know it's difficult when I say industry because you cover so many industries at Pittcon. What do you see? What do you think the normal trends would be?
Excuse me for a second, the screen just locked for just an instant there. The things you're going to really see is specialization, and you're going to see, so in other words, in a number of these areas, the instrument manufacturers are being forced to come up with methods, not sell an instrument, sell a method. So if you've got, like, again, a specific cannabis test you want to do, a specific drug test you want to do, that's what you're buying. It just happens to have a Mass-Spec associated with it, or a chromatograph associated with it, or something else. And so the instrument companies themselves are forced to have their own method development labs and drive those more, because that's what's driving sales for them. The second is the trying to put technology out there in people's hands. I mentioned earlier cryo electron microscopy. Okay, that instrument's tremendously costly, but new units are coming out now that are a fraction of that cost. Slightly less resolution, but enough to get the job done. Same thing in Mass-Spec. The portables that are out there, the smaller instrumentation that's out there, that driving the costs down for the electric sector, magnetic sector, other kinds of mass separation capabilities as technologies require. Those are the big thing. The two biggest things are instrument companies are doing their darndest to focus on new method development so they can sell methods that just happen to have an instrument associated with them. And the second is how to take existing ones that have a strong demand but aren't affordable, and driving the cost of those down. And over the next year, those they're just so huge. They're going to just keep driving the instrumentation area for the remainder of the year. There's just no way around it.
Right, brilliant. So let's talk about Pittcon more specifically then, and the event coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So why should people register for this year's event?
I'm really glad you asked that. So when we figured out that there's no way we could have a face-to-face conference, we had to just reinvent from scratch Pittcon. Because there again, the biggest mistake you make going virtual is to force a face-to-face box on it. You can't. It's a new platform. You've got to really rethink your whole game plan. And our biggest challenge that we imposed on ourselves is, the face-to-face experience. The whole reason Pittcon started was really to allow that serendipity that happens when you're just having an informal conversation, as you and I are right now, that ideas pop out, opportunities pop out. That's why I went to Pittcon for many, many years, just because I could talk to exhibitors about potential needs that they hadn't envisioned, but I saw in their technology, and I wanted to see if they'd be willing to go there with me so I could use that in where I worked. Well, okay, that's what we really worked on, is how can we make, how can we, what technologies can we engage, can we embrace to make Pittcon, virtual Pittcon, as engaging as possible? And it is a challenge. You've got to hit it on many fronts. But you know, the biggest thing you want to get away from right there is you don't want it to seem sterile. You want it to look like, hey, people are here, people are involved, and we've really done that. When you look at our platform, it's going to be very, very engaging. There's going to be a range of activities going on at any given time. There'll be messaging going on, letting you know of other things that are taking place and coming up. But we did manage. We have the same range of offerings. We've got a technical program, which is excellent, and we really focused it on a number of what we call tracks. So when you search things, you can search by an author's name, you can search by a title, you can search by the track. You know, an example, what do I mean by track? A track might be cannabis, it might be life sciences, it might be energy. So that's what I mean by track. And right away there, it'll throw up what vendors are here and that associated with that track, what talks are going on or essentially associated with that track. Do we have any networking sessions going on with that track? When are they? So we've got networking sessions, we've got our employment bureau, we've got our tech program, and of course the expo hall. And the expo hall, again, we've really tried to make it as engaging as humanly possible. When you go in, you'll see the booth rep, and actually you'll see the face of the booth rep, the actual booth rep on the avatar that's in the booth. You can have immediately select which booth rep you want to chat with. You can pick. You can say, look, this company, fine. I can click on it right now, see what booth reps are there. Which one do I want to talk to? You can talk, by chat, by Zoom immediately. We've really tried to pull every tool we could to try and make your interactive experience as real as possible, and also as spontaneous as possible. One big positive so I mentioned earlier, with a virtual conference, the loss is the tactile sensation. You're not
Sure.
physically in front of someone, but a positive is you're not waiting on someone either. When you go to a booth, you're not standing there because the booth rep's talking to somebody else, or that instrument they're showing, someone's showing it right now. No, you want to talk about that or have a demo on that. You have it when you want it. You aren't waiting on anyone. So the big plus of a virtual experience is you're not waiting on anything. If you want something, whether it's a talk, whether it's an interaction with a exhibitor, you can do that now. And even in our tech program, so the first time any given talk is up is by our schedule. So if I'm giving a talk at 2 o'clock on Monday, that's when that talk is. It's at 2 o'clock Eastern time on Monday. But after that, it's on demand. So a big thing we've freed attendees from is the conflict of feeling, I want to be at 3 talks that are scheduled at the same time. I'm mad because I got to pick one, and I'm not going to be able to hear the other 2. That's done. We pre-recorded every single talk, and for this reason. We wanted someone who wants to share, interact with our content. They can do that at their leisure. So if you see there's 3 talks going on, big deal. When that talk's over, it's on demand. You can have access to it whenever you want, whatever time zone you're in. That's another big challenge of a virtual show, right? What time zone do you do this in? How do you do this so it's not a 24-hour? So it's not a challenge. Well, the way you do that is the way we decided to do that anyway was pre-record our content. That way it's available to anyone, anywhere, whatever time they want. Even the booths, they're all open. A given booth rep might not be live at that time, but fine, big deal. You just send a chat, say, look, I want to talk to you at this time tomorrow or later, and that's going to go right out to their mailbox, and you can have that interaction. So going virtually actually is very, very empowering to the attendee, because they're not waiting on anything. Anything we have, they can access on their schedule.
Right. So, can I ask you one question? Because you mentioned networking, obviously, and it's such a huge part of going to events. And that moment when, for example, and numerous times at Pittcon and other shows where you've sat down for a coffee on one of those tables, you're tired, your feet are killing you. You sit down, and suddenly you see someone next to you. You go, "Oh, hi, how you doing?" You start the conversation, and you start having that interaction. So, how can you, or are you going to replicate that with the show now that it's virtual? Because that's the biggest, if I'm fortunate to attend lots of virtual events. I've attended 4 this week already, and the biggest difficulty, I would say, for any organizer is to try and replicate that situation where you can have that informal conversation just by joining a table or whatever it is, and you start having that conversation. How have you sort of overcome that, or trying to overcome that anyway?
Right. Yeah, and you hit it. That is the single biggest challenge of virtual events. Um, so so one of the things that we found rather useful over the years is our networking sessions. So what those really are is, and anyone can propose these. What we do is we have a series of Zoom rooms that we open with different topics, and that's it. I mean, that's the schedule. That's the agenda right there. So if it is, uh, I'm going to look at I'm going to look at environmental sampling, which is a challenge, of course, because it affects the accuracy of the methods. Fine, you go to that net meeting room. It's whoever shows up, and you talk about whatever you want to talk about, which is
Right.
the same format we followed in our live network rooms, but it allows for informal. So that's time. That room's up for an hour and a half, and it's whatever those attendees want to discuss with the other attendees who are in the room. Um, it's a bit harder in the tech program because, of course, like tech program, you've got a rigid schedule, you've got questions for that author,
Sure.
and you can't have the people standing in the hallway on the 10-minute break.
Yeah,
So
sure.
that's what we try to do with our networking meetings, and we have messaging going out. Hey, by the way, 10 minutes, this networking session starting, so that people will know, hey, this room's there, it's there, and that schedule's always there. You can go to networking, see our schedule for the week. Look at what's there. So the disadvantage of networking sessions, of course, they're scheduled to a specific time zone, um, but they do allow for true free-form discussion of whatever the attendees wish to talk about relating to the subject matter of that particular meeting.
Brilliant.
But that's about the today with current technology. That's about the closest you can get
Fine.
to the real experience.
Now, I know Pittcon has got a very loyal membership and attendees. I mean, you mentioned yourself you've been for many, many years. So how can people get involved in Pittcon this year? Because you mentioned networking, you mentioned obviously technical sessions, but are there ways that people can sort of get more involved in the event itself?
Actually, we are we're very open to ideas. So for example, there's obvious attending, right? Um, but we're always looking for ideas for our program for next year, for 2022. So we are always looking for suggestions. What would you like to see? What would you like to see from our tech program? Are you willing to put together a session? We invite people to propose session topics. So if you have an area you feel is underserved, even if you're not willing to be the organizer to put it together, you can suggest it to us and why, and we'll adopt it, and we'll find someone to head it up and pull together a group of sessions on that subject. That's what we call our invited symposia. Those are those are part of the technical program that we dictate, because we say that subject we're gonna hit it, and we're gonna find out who's doing cutting edge work in that area, and we're gonna invite them to come speak. But the networking rooms, if you feel, gee, we didn't hit your subject area, you'd really like to see a free-form discussion on this subject, how do I get standards made for this particular application, or, who else is using this particular kind of technology for for these applications, what could I be doing better? I'm having some problems. Fine, send it to us. The networking sessions, as I said, they're open. We just want subject matter that people are going to attend and discuss that's relevant and current. but the biggest, so the three biggest areas are for the average person is attending, suggesting us ideas for the tech program. And again, if you're willing to lead it, put it together, we'll give you that chance. We'll let you do that. Same thing with networking sessions. From an exhibitor standpoint, we're always looking to engage exhibitors with our mission. A lot of our exhibitors do outreach like we do, but there again, theirs is under the radar. We welcome promoting that as part of our venue, especially where we have synergies, where a vendor's got an outreach effort that we can align with. So there are and then that's actually something we really hope for, is that we get that feedback, especially during these next few months here, so that as we start planning for 2022, we're trying to adopt as much input from attendees or potential attendees or exhibitors as we possibly can.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I know that's about all the time we've got today. So any final messages for all the viewers watching at the moment?
Actually, just I appreciate the chance to chat with you, and I just hope that if someone wants to be engaged in a technical conference that has a pay it forward mission, Pittcon is just that. As I mentioned before, any net revenue, any net income we generate goes right back out. That's what we're here for. It's really as altruistic as it sounds, and look forward to having a successful show and getting to actually be involved. I'll be moderating a number of different sessions myself during the show, and using it as a chance to just get engaged a bit with some of our attendees.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for taking the time out, Neal. I much appreciate it. I mean, it's been really interesting. In fact, I love hearing about the history about the event. Obviously you're ingrained in the event very much so, having been this for so long as well. And it sounds like it's going to be fantastic. So I look forward to attending as well, and seeing how it is virtually compared to obviously walking around Chicago last year, which was a very different experience in itself as well. So thank you very much. And if you want to know more about Pittcon, the links for the event will be above the video, so you can click on the links and find out more. And also, if you've got any questions, you can put them below the comments. I'm sure Neal will be happy to answer them if he sees them as well. So all that's going to say is, Neal, good luck with the planning. I know the 2 weeks is slightly different from a live show. When you do a virtual, now you have to worry about the website and make sure everything technically is working there, rather than the stand builds and everything else you would do if it was a live show. But good luck with the build up to the event in a couple of weeks, and I wish it has great success, and I wish you a fantastic 2021 and maybe happy, healthy and successful as well.
Thank you very much.
And thank you everyone for watching, and until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.